Hello, world, and welcome to another podcast of It's Not You, It's Autoimmune with your host, Dr. Jocelyne Eberstein. Dr. Jocelyne Eberstein has over 25 years of experience as a doctor of Oriental medicine, medical acupuncture, and functional medicine practitioner. As a community, we are stronger and wiser. You got this, America, where good health is just a podcast away.
Welcome to a new episode of our Health and Wellness podcast. It's Not You, It's Autoimmune. I'm your host, Dr. Jocelyne Eberstein. And today's episode is super exciting. I'm thrilled to have him on. I used to see our guest at chiropractic seminars. I'm an acupuncturist. And I remember him asking us, what do you think about this title, Chicken Soup for the Soul, right? Isn't that a great title, right? So since then he's turned into America's best buddy, right? Best friend. He's a best-selling author, motivational speaker, philanthropist, Mark Victor Hansen, and he wrote a fantastic book with this gorgeous loveliness. Yeah, look how pretty it is, right? Crystal Dwyer Hansen, and it's entitled Ask, the bridge from your destiny to your, from your dreams to your destiny. That was what you taught about all your life. And it's a guide to help you discover your destiny, mobilize and move towards it, and manifest blessings, not only for yourself, but for others, which is really the most important part of it. And so, I was reading a description online, and it said, it was so beautiful. It was an affirmation. It said, you matter. Your world needs you. It needs you to find your destiny and live it. You have to do this for the world. So start crossing the bridge to your destiny today. Welcome, Mark Victor Hansen and Crystal Dwyer Hansen. I'm so happy to meet you. I was I can't wait to meet her. That was the main thing.
That's so sweet, Jocelyn. Well, I'm so happy to meet you. You're an awesome person, and we met through our mutual friend David Darkangelo.
I know.
He's like the angel, isn't he? He's so
sweet. Is that the best name ever? I mean, Darkangelo, right? It's excellent.
You've been my friend for 40 years, and thank you for attending all my seminars in the recent past. We won't even call it distant. How's that?
No, but you know what? I mean, you said I was an acupuncturist. You were the one that got me. I mean, I was the second largest practice in the state of California. And if it wasn't for you and saying, here's where you go, and I was like, oh, okay, I drank the Kool-Aid. I didn't know I was doing it, but I drank it. It sounded good to me. It was inspiring. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And you got me on my purpose path.
Thank you for drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak, because that's really what we want. What we're saying is, look, our book Ask is about our destiny, is helping everyone find their destiny. And right now, because we've all been in this tragic cocoon for 7 or 8 months, it is time to have everybody a caterpillar goes into the cocoon, the chrysalis, and breaks out into a high-flying butterfly. We think that's where everybody is, 8 billion of us, and we're glad that you example all that, and congratulations for having a superstar practice, because we want everyone to fulfill their destiny, because if you're alive, you've got a destiny no matter whether you're young or old, and all we want to do is give that wonderful destiny potential back to each and every individual.
So in the conferences, in the seminars, do you know what you used to say? Ask till you get the yes. That was your mantra. Wait till you get the yes. Be like a kid. I mean, it was so sweet, honestly. So Crystal, I wanted to know, what inspired you to write the book, and why is it so timely now?
Well, Mark, and I'm a transformational life coach and clinical hypnotherapist, and all of my work has to do, transformational work is all about that self-reflection, right? And self-reflection is all about asking. It's about asking yourself. And Mark and I determined that there are actually 3 channels through which we need to ask to discover our destiny, to unleash our destiny. And those channels are ask yourself, ask others, and ask God. And each of those channels is equally important. And what we found, we're so privileged, Jocelyne, to travel the world, meet so many amazing people. But what we started noticing is that there were many people who were just so talented, had so many skills, so likable, so much potential, but yet for some reason they weren't reaching their full potential. You're looking at a guy going, he could be running a city, or she could be running a company, be the CEO. they're so skilled? Why are they falling so short of their dreams and destiny? And what we determined is that thing, if you could, sum it up into one thing, it's that these people really are afraid to ask for what they want and what they deserve. And we thought there's no better service that we could do to people than to show them that beautiful bridge of discovery that will take you from your dreams to your destiny. And we call it the asking bridge.
So Mark, when I drank the Kool-Aid and followed your lead, I kind of skipped over this ask thing. I never asked. I just okay, let's do it, and so I wanted to know what are the three channels and why are they important to have all three of them?
Well, what happens is, because we're in this sequester time for the first time ever, what Crystal and I, like she was saying, discovered is we wrote everything we know about asking, because when we were trying to get out of problems, we found out there's only one way, like you saw in City Slicker. And that one way is learning to ASK, like you learned from me, to GET, whatever it is that your heart's desire is. So that's number one. And then number two is what we've discovered is that, because now we've had the book out, it came out April 28th, and the publisher called up when he had COVID and said, hey, you want to push it back? I said, no. I take adversity with Crystal and we turn into advantage forever. So what we want everyone to do is get a copy of Ask and then buddy up with somebody and go through every question in the book. So, because you got to ask yourself, like she said, ask others and then ask God. And we teach it at depth. And what's happening is that, like the other day, we got 121 letters in one day from people that have had life transformation, because you've got to start asking yourself, wait a second, like today, 80,000 people got laid off. And last Friday, 60,000 got laid off permanently forever in the airline business. And they are not having somewhere to go back to. So we got to repivot, reinvent. And the only way to do that is go to the depth of your soul and ask. And I teach an entrepreneur takes low value, makes it high value to him or herself and the marketplace by solving a problem, fixing it for a vast profit. And we're saying every one of us has got to do that. And it probably includes at least 4 billion of the 8 billion people alive.
So a lot of people that are in a bricks and mortar business are having to figure this out and having to pivot. It's really difficult. But you also in the book said that there's blocks. People have blocks from really finding their, from asking and then from finding their destiny. So what are those blocks? And I wanted to know, because there's 7 of them, what are the ones that are glaring, the glaring blocks? Because I never knew how to ask, never have asked.
Right. And that's what we determined, Jocelyne, that there are 7 roadblocks to asking, that every one of us has at least one, if not more, of these roadblocks. And I would say the 2 most prevalent ones are, number 1, unworthiness. People walk around with this sense of unworthiness, and it's really just conditioning from our childhood that somehow makes us believe at a subtle level we might not deserve better. And so it's so important to get over these roadblocks and understand that everything in life, every potential is already seated within us. It's just ours for the taking if we're willing to dive in courageously and start asking the right questions. Another one is fear, just that, fear, just like sheer terror of asking anyone anything because you're afraid of rejection. And I think the reason people are so afraid of rejection is because human beings need love. And somehow we feel at some subtle level, if someone says no to us, it is them withdrawing love from us or withdrawing approval. And so the minute we start to understand those things and understand that those things aren't true, it opens the gateway for us to give ourselves permission to start asking for every single thing. And I think one of the other really important ones is naivete. A lot of us don't ask because we simply do not know what is out there for us. And I tell this story in the book about this woman who worked for us from the Philippines when my children were very young. She'd come every day and cook these beautiful dishes for us, and we'd try all these new foods. And one day she showed up with this fruit and cut it up on a tray and gave it to me and said, try this, Crystal, it's so good. So I bit into this orange juicy fruit and I'm like, this is the best fruit I've ever tasted. What is this, Imelda? And she said, it's mango. And I was like, mango? How come I've never tasted mango before? I've traveled all over Europe. I've been to so many places, been to Mexico a whole bunch of times. And I thought, what else am I missing in life? Because I'm naive. I just don't know that it's there for me. What people am I passing by every day that might be the best relationship I've ever had, the best friendship, the best business partnership or business opportunity that I'm walking past every day? And all of us do this. We kind of stay in our own naive space and stop asking. We stop being, this is the curiosity piece that we talk about. And that goes back to our childhood. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit, but being wildly curious about life is what really starts. It's another way that asking starts to open up our lives. What is that? What could it mean? Is there something there I haven't seen before? Question everything, right? And there are more roadblocks we can talk about, but I think those are three of the really important ones that we need to focus on.
And I Mark, a lot of what you teach is that the only person that says no is you, actually, right? My husband says, you don't ask, you don't get. It's like, honestly, so it's about really just having faith. Like, and this is another issue that I find in my population, my patient population. So I'm in the Hollywood, and the millennials, blah, blah, blah. Like, there is no faith, and you can't even say the word God in the treatment room. I mean, it's awful. So how do you get around that piece when you're, say, like going through the book or discussing or guiding somebody through this ask process when they don't have a belief system at all? And a lot of people have been raised with nothing, so there is no faith. How do you do that? What do you do with that?
First of all, I'd like both of us to talk to it, but obviously, look, there's only one person, total intelligence, which is, I would call God, infinite intelligence, infinite wisdom, infinite beauty, infinite love, infinite possibility, that flung the stars into the sky and made this thing called a universe, what scientists say is 15 billion years ago. And not one of those millennials can take a clump of dirt and do any of that. And what's trouble is that they are believing in transhumanism, and they're believing that a chip can make you, and they're misunderstanding, and they haven't got a basis in a lot of awareness. So one of the things that we're doing, and then I'll have Crystal talk to it, is that we're sharing insight into understanding God in you, so you can understand universe better. Because if you don't have faith, you'll fall for anything, right? And the old thing in politics from Thomas Paine is, if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. Well, I will stand, and I will discuss, and I will argue and debate anyone about God versus not God. And we've been on a couple of shows, and curiously enough did that. And not only am I a total absolute believer, and we happen to be Christian, but we, and when I was a student in graduate schools, they sent me to India, and I studied all the theologies of Asia. And so I'm pretty contemporarily wise, but everybody totally advertently thinks there's one universal intelligence. Would you add to that?
Well, I would just say, there's no question about our faith. I mean, we've just had so many personal experiences, miraculous experiences that reveal the miracle of God and God's perfect universe every day, right? But I would say for people who have a hard time, they just don't understand how to believe. They've never had any experience with that. It's interesting. Dr. Gary Schwartz from the University of Arizona wrote a book called The GOD Experiments. And he's talking about, just chaos theory and the idea that random, the universe was just randomly created. And so he actually did these scientific experiments that proved, that there's no way the universe, in its exquisite beauty and wonder and excellence, could have randomly fallen together. And it's just such an interesting read. And for people who don't have faith or don't have a belief in anything, I would just say, suspend your disbelief and look around you and try to see the miracle in every part of life, in living trees and a baby being born, and the way a mother horse gives birth to a foal and instantly she's snuggling him and protecting him. There's something in standing, and he's running, and there are so many miracles in this universe.
And I tell my patients, because I came from a nuclear medical background, so I tell my patients, you know what? Quantum physicists believe there's a God, there's an organizing force. You must be smarter than them. That's what I tell them. I mean, it's like,
Right.
I don't get it, right? It's kind
Right,
of
because
crazy.
when you go to the end of science, you find God, truly.
Right. At the end, yeah.
Yeah. By the way, when I was in graduate school, I was with Bucky Fuller, who's Einstein's best student, and Dr. Fuller would say the top of physics is metaphysics, and that's why Einstein, who is his teacher, says imagination is more important than facts. And the fact of the matter is that God only gave human beings this great imagination, and it's and what we're saying is it's only with questions that you start to open up, that you have illumination, that you have insight, that you have exploration, that you have revelation. And what happens is that each and every one of us has got to have that. And I love your question, by the way, because it's interesting. Two things I'm going to say. One is, for 22 years, we worked in China, and the questions that were always asked, originally, I'm, paid this whole fortune, and she's paid a fortune. They never asked about how to build a business, because they're good business builders. They asked starting with her, every question about God, because their culture teaches atheism and agnosticism, neither of which work. It just like socialism. My parents came out of socialistic Denmark, where we took all the Jews into Denmark, and my uncle created the black band to bring them in. So it is not okay with me that kind of system, because it's a dysfunctional system. There's no free lunch, but universe doesn't have a free lunch either. Karma has an effect. There's a cause, effect, total result, and there's a triangle effect. And what happens is that God is the ultimate causeless cause. There's no other cause. So when people in millennials, and we've got 5 kids and 6 grandkids in our family so far, and more coming, we think, but we're saying that the millennials, ours have been given a deep, rich spiritual base, and we cover spirituality. And I'm sorry that so many parents are not studying spiritual stuff, because spirituality makes the world work. The spiritual runs the mental, which runs the physical, which runs the result, which you, as a great doctor and friend, absolutely have to believe. And that you're just the intermediary with either chiropractic or acupuncture to facilitate that beautiful
I'm
healing.
the messenger. That's
Top
it.
down, inside out. I think you believe that.
Yeah. So, Mark, with these economic times, they're just horrible. The recession, then you've got the political and social, just this polarization and the global pandemic. It's like a lot of people feel like the world is just, like the cards are just stacked up against them. It's horrible. So what do you suggest to really get them back to a place where they think they even can think to seek help? Or to, from the universe, or that there's a possibility? Like, how do you get them back on track like that when they're just negative? They're desperate. They're in this place where they want to pull the covers over their heads.
By the way, first of all, I felt that way in 1974. I went bankrupt, lost $2 million in one day, slept in front of another guy's bedroom in a sleeping bag for 6 months, and then all of a sudden it came to me, because remember, we're saying ask yourself, ask others, ask God. I asked myself, what do I want to do? And what I said is, oh, wow, I want to talk to people that care about things that would matter, that make a life-changing, transformative difference. And I asked my roommates, and I said, look, there's a young guy speaking out here who's not famous, not a doctor, not a lawyer, not a celebrity. And I went and I heard him, got wowed, said, tell me how to do this. I did 1,000 talks to you the first 3 years. But as you are working on yourself, you transform. So those people that are feeling despondent, I'm going to beg them to read this book, number one. And number two, go to my website, markvictorhansen.com, and also go to crystaldwyerhansen.com and get some of our free stuff, because it'll help you transform. Because when I went bankrupt, the one thing that saved me is I had a big tape recorder, and I listened to this one tape again and again and again. Back then, we didn't have little in-service cassettes in cars and that, by Cabot Robert, and called, you're either the creature circumstance or the creator. And I thought, I created this bankruptcy? You're kidding me. The economy, the New York Times did it. I was living in New York, built the Wall Street Rock Club, all kinds of cool stuff. But it wasn't them, it was me. And that's what Crystal is the master maestro of, saying, hey, look, it's not the out there, it's in here. And so what we got to do is work on ourselves. And when you resurrect, then you'll see it's not the economy, it's not the government, it's not politics, it's not your neighbor, it's not your relatives. It is you, that can transform your whole world. Like you've done one of the biggest practices in the world in California, which is 40 million people. So God bless you, pat you on the shoulder.
Right.
Thanks. That was because of you. So in the book, Crystal, you talk about kind of the quality of the ask and kind of and Mark probably talks about the size of the ask, right?
Right.
Size matters, right?
That matters.
So
big.
that really
you say the
resonated
size
with
of
me.
your question determines the size of your right. The result. Sorry.
So could you tell us a little bit more about that, about the quality of the ask? Like, how do we bring quality into it?
Right. It is so important, and especially at this time, because there is truly no mechanism that has the ability to reveal what is hidden, like asking. And right now, we're all stuck. We're confused. We're lost. There's so many changes. So it's the time we need to sit with ourselves, by ourselves, with our journal, with these questions, and start asking those questions. And what we say in that reflective journey, there are really 3 critical phases, I want to say. So the first phase is, where am I now? This is a great time to analyze. You know, a lot of people were running through their lives before this COVID hit and really weren't liking the results, weren't happy with what they were doing, had been thinking for a long time, you know, maybe I'm off track, maybe I should be doing something else. Well, now there's kind of this giant opportunity to reset. So it's time to say, where am I now? You know, and all the little sub questions that come under that. Am I enjoying my life? Am I fulfilling my destiny? Am I expressing my best? What would that look like? You know, so that's the first phase. Where am I now? Because we can't figure out where to go until we understand where we are right now. And the second critical phase of those questions is, where do I want to be? I mean, how long has it been since any of us sat down and said, where do I really want to be in my life? Where do I want my life to go? Or what Mark and I like to do is start at the end, start at the perfect scenario and say, in my perfect idea of success, what am I doing every day? Who am I talking to? Who am I influencing? Who am I working with? What am I working for? What's the most important thing to me? And then in that way, you start to engineer your ideal life backwards. And you can do that for relationships, you know, for your career, for your health and wellness, anything. Imagine that perfect scenario. What am I doing? What do I look like in this perfect scenario? And how is my life unfolding each day under this perfect scenario? And then the final critical phase of that reflective asking yourself questions is, once you've determined the first 2, what specific steps do I need to take to get there? To get to this place where I've just engineered or, you know, started creating the architecture for my perfect life, for my perfect career, for my perfect relationships, for my perfect health and wellness, for my perfect idea of my greater life purpose.
It's that, I mean, honestly, like when this pandemic hit and I was at the time flirting with, you know what, it's time to get off your feet, not practice as much, and you need to have a wider span, you know, a bigger reach. Yeah. And so I feel like this pandemic has created opportunity, if you look at it that way, honestly. So my mission statement, and because of Mark, thanks, it's to change global health. That's a big ask, right? And so this allowed me to really come through and figure out, okay, well, what do I need to do? So this podcast was part of it because that was going to be a bigger reach. I wanted people to have breakthroughs in their health, and I'm talking physical, fiscal, emotional, spiritual, everything. And then I wanted to find out, like, with all these stressors, so health right now is stressful. There's so much stress, you can't get healthy. A lot of people are having a hard time with it, and their health is declining. But how do we deal with these mental stressors and to allow us to function as, you know, as healthy human beings, really healthy enough to be able to see beyond, like, you know, the disaster that's going on out there?
Two things. Number one is, and then I want to go back, the second one is go back to the question you asked a minute ago about God, because I came up with a better answer.
Okay.
The first thing is you got to be in favor of yourself and say, hey, wait a second, I'm taking care of me. I'm not going to be a couch potato. I'm going to eat really right. And we eat green live foods as much as we can, and organic fresh meat. And we love, you know, produced stuff because it's organic and hormone free and all that. And then we got to exercise every day. I mean, like I was up at 6 o'clock exercising this morning, and she's going to exercise a little bit later. And then also steam baths. And also she was at the acupuncturist earlier this week on her knee. And just so And if you were closer to us, you'd probably be our doctor. The point is and then you got to hang out with really positive people. So all that stuff. And then you got to have some spiritual basis where you study. And every morning we wake up and spend an hour together in prayer, meditation, and discussing how to sculpt our life to perfection. Back to number one question you asked 2 times ago about God. Again, my teacher, Dr. Buckminster Fuller, when Fuller's daughter was 4 years old, Allegra died, and he'd been at the Harvard-Yale game, and he felt crushed. And he's at the end of Lake Michigan in Chicago writing for Fortune magazine at the time and said, life's not worth living. If I die, my family will be taken care of by her family, who are rich, called Hewletts. They own Hewlett, Long Island. He said, first question he asked, is there a God? And the answer is what you asked. He said, the thing came spontaneously to him. There's an a priori intelligence in universe. A priori means before reason. There is a causeless cause. Second thought, have I got a purpose in life? Because that's really what God's telling us. The 2 parts in Genesis 1:28, after all that creation, is you're here to create, a big C, and the second big C is to contribute. And right now, even though back to what you asked about, Jocelyne, you're in a cocoon. That's when you're supposed to do the deepest, most profound thinking to say, what is the illumination? And the spiritual question we've got in our book is you ask 101 times before you go to sleep, God, what's your destiny for me? God, what's your destiny for me? God, what's your destiny for me? And you got to be ready, because you've got to have pen and paper, because the idea will come through. You got to tell your sweetheart, hey, I might wake up at 2:59 in the morning. If Mark and Crystal are telling the truth, I'm going to have this great idea. And that's what this mind is overendowed with: talent, ability, opportunity, promotion. But you've got to program it. You've got to ask at the deep resources, what is my destiny?
I've always known my destiny, but for people who don't really know, like why is asking like fundamental to balancing and mitigating the stress that's going on out there? Because, I mean, most people, and I find this a lot with people I counsel and so on. They pray to God and they ask, and all they do is ask God, and they never sit back to listen. And so, do you know what I'm saying? Because He's talking to you all the time, right? So, how do we get them to find that balance to at least like clear out some of this chaos, this mess that's going on?
Right, exactly, Jocelyne. So first of all, I tell people as a transformational life coach, well, no matter what's going on in our lives and the difficulties we have, this is a lot of extra difficulty we're dealing with right now. But while it appears that our life experience is happening out there somewhere outside of us, and it's just coming at us, and we're trying to duck and dodge and just keep the balls in the air, the truth of it is the life you experience actually comes from the inside out. It is not coming from out there. And once we realize that, if we can keep that in mind, it changes everything dramatically. So you need to shut off the news. The news is intentionally dramatic.
Amen.
Oh my goodness. It's if we, and unfortunately we've got our phones, we got the notifications going off, the pings and the dings. We are literally driving ourselves insane as a society. And we don't have any peace because we don't allow ourselves any peace. All we have to do is make a conscious decision to shut that off. The world's not going to change. They're just, reiterating the same drama and the same problems. And the problem with that is every time your mind takes that in, you're starting to create almost like a PTSD.
Right.
The human mind is not made to take on that much stress, this instant informational, here's a problem, here's all this nasty political stuff going back and forth. You start to get a post-traumatic stress disorder. So shut that off and realize that your life cannot be created from the outside in. You have got to learn to go inside of yourself and begin to create your life in a very deliberate way. And the first thing you do when you don't know what to do and you're stuck and you don't have the answers, you start asking the questions. And one by one, question by question, you ask a question and then you listen and you pay attention, and you'll suddenly go, wow, I just thought of a solution. Exactly. I just thought of a new idea. Another question, you think of a different plan, ask some more questions, and suddenly you start to see a different pathway. But you have to ask the questions and you have to write them down, the answers that are coming to you and the reflections that you're getting. We say there's a section in the book called Prepare to be a Good Asker. And the way you prepare are first 3 ways. Belief. Okay. So when you start asking your questions, just suspend all disbelief and say, first of all, I believe that I deserve the answers to my questions. And I believe the answers are out there for me. I believe I will get these answers if I just keep asking. I'm going to be awake and alert to all the clues that come to me, because you will start to get clues everywhere. In fact, the studies show that when you start asking yourself questions, a different part of your brain goes to work for you. And it's the part of your brain that does critical thinking. Nice. So suddenly now you're using your own mind as a better resource, which is really a beautiful thing. Your mind has so much ability. The second way to prepare to be a good asker is taking action. Like you're saying, Jocelyne. I mean, you can't just ask the questions and then not do anything, not take any action. You need to be willing to act on it. Don't sit on the couch and wrap a blanket around yourself. And, you know, you need to say, okay, ask the questions. And then suddenly you think, wow, I just thought of this person who's doing exactly what I'm interested in, this idea that I've never entertained before that is starting to come to me. And this person does that, or they might have information. Pick up the phone right then and call that person and just say, you know, I want to have a conversation with you. Can we just talk for a minute? I thought of this today. What are your insights? You know, ask other people questions. That's the ask others part. And this is an important part of the asking journey. It's the part that a lot of us are so scared of. We're so scared to ask anyone for anything. And the studies that we looked at show that people going into an asking situation have the perception that people will think they're stupid, uninformed, ignorant if they ask something, or that they're pushy and obnoxious if they're asking for a favor or some assistance. The exact opposite of true is true. If the studies show if you're willing to ask someone, you're 80% more likely to get your request granted than if you just sit back and never ask anything and think someone's just going to run to your rescue out of the blue. It doesn't happen. You have to be proactive on your own behalf and be your own best advocate and go ask. And someone might reject you, but you'll be closer to the next person who's going to have the answer. And it's important to remember, don't personalize those rejections. It's usually just more about the person that you ask. They just don't have the information, or they're not in a position to help you. And that's okay. It's not about you. It's about them. Just keep asking for what you want. Stick to your guns. And then the other part of preparing to be a good asker is visualization. You have an imagination that is so magnificent. No other animal can imagine. You can imagine. Your imagination is so powerful that, and I do this demonstration for hypnotherapy. If I ask you to close your eyes right now and imagine biting into a big juicy lemon, I promise you, if your head was hooked up to, if we were monitoring your brain, we would see that changes happened in your brain, and the part of your brain that would light up, that when you tasted a sour lemon, that same part of your brain would light up if you were just imagining tasting a sour lemon. Your imagination is so powerful. When you decide to start imagining the best scenarios for yourself, the most amazing outcomes for yourself, you will start to manifest those in miraculous ways.
And I think all of this is true also for people who have health conditions, like in general, because I mean, that's one of the biggest things with the cancer treatment is, are you visualizing yourself well? And then you activate those cells and they start changing because you're putting different patterns in. So, by the way, my pattern of asking since reading the book, I've been asking more than I ever have in my life, because I never did. I always did it alone, because I was like thrown to the wayside, to the curb. So, Mark, with this book, do you see this like blowing up and doing like the chicken soup for the soul, like really, making a movement, this message really creating a movement?
I love your questions. They are just wonderful. And the truth is that chicken soup, as we said, sold over 500 million, 500 million books. And my goal, which is outrageous, because I said, as long as you're going to set goals, set outrageous goals. And I wanted to sell 1 billion books during or after my lifetime, but I think it'll be during my lifetime. So yes, we have lightning in a bottle for a second time. And because podcasting is one of your new outreaches and it's become ours. I mean, we listen to podcasts, but all of a sudden when our publisher called and said, do you want to push the back? I go, no. I take adversity turned into advantage. There's got to be some gold mine in here. We have now literally done 70 or 80 podcasts literally around the world, everywhere in America, like now with you in California and around the country, but Canada, UK, all of Europe and Africa and Asia. And we were on one with 10 million people in Vietnam. And the next morning I get called up by one of our best friends in LA, Ken Rutkowski, who said, you got to talk to the most important guy in UK. He just watched you with 10 million people and says, I got to tell you what we're going to do about your ass. So the point is, what podcasting has done, which has gone way beyond, is literally expanded us around the planet. And because the only place you can guarantee to buy books is Amazon.com, everyone's going to Amazon. We want them to go there, get the book, and you can get it in any form you want. You can get it in a hardbound like this. It's a beautiful book. You don't mind my saying. So you can get it in audio. You can get it in anything you want. The point I'm making is then go to askthebookclub.com, and we want to have a book club where we teach people to become what we call master askers, and everybody can grow, develop, and back to the most important thing, fulfill their potential and realize all their heart dreams. And it's not COVID that's going to stop you. It's you that's going to stop you.
I think COVID is just a little nudge. That's it. It's a nudge. You guys haven't. And honestly, when I look at this, and that's why I launched a podcast, is because nobody was talking about, oh, by the way, take a little vitamin D. Oh, by the way, we know about viruses. We gave people in Africa with HIV a little multivitamin, and it changed the course of, nobody's talking about it. And even Fauci used to say, oh, take vitamin C, vitamin D. Did you hear anything like that? No. It makes me crazy. So I'm hoping to get that message out, because it's an inside out job again, and nobody's holding the public responsible. They're holding the president responsible. They're not holding their ill health and metabolically declining bodies. I mean, people have to get on top of it and stop being so irresponsible, honestly. And the medications, they want the government to come save you. Oh, here, come save me. I'm just going to stay here victimized. And I think that half of what's going on out there, people could have prevented. So right now, honestly, what we want to do is you got to take your vitamin D, vitamin C, quercetin, zinc. And, even on all my patients are on it. They take one product to mount an attack against the virus. We know how viruses work in the body. It's like not news. Mount the attack initially. If it comes in, you keep the virus from penetrating the cell, keep it from replicating. It's a no-brainer. No-brainer. So somebody help.
I know. I love that you're saying this, Jocelyne, because, it's what Mark and I have done forever. I have a company called Skinny Life, the secret to physical, emotional, and spiritual fitness. And I was raised in a really unique environment where my mother did, huge organic gardens and juice cleanses, and we took vitamins and minerals. So I'm really thankful for my background. And Mark and I are both so well-versed and well-studied on all of the supplements. I mean, you can create amazing health, amazing immunity in your own body if you're willing to take a teeny bit of time. There's so much information on the internet. There's no excuse for not doing it.
Not now.
No excuse. We've been taking everything you've talked about forever.
Right.
Quercetin, vitamin C, zinc, vitamin D, alpha-lipoic acid. There are a lot of things you can take. Even magnesium, having enough magnesium in your body. I've read studies that's helpful as well.
Exactly.
Having a well-nourished body that has the right nutritional content will make your body a fortress against these. They say, from what I've read, I'm not a doctor, I'll preface that,
okay.
But what I've read, viruses are kind of stupid, and they're not that smart. You can actually kill them quite easily if you're healthy. But if you're diabetic, if you're eating giant bags of nutritionless chips and Twinkies and Hostess cupcakes and whatever else, and pop and drinking and eating fast food, that high calorie, high fat, low nutrition foods, that's going to make your body a very easy target for a virus.
It's so hard though, because the food industry has poisoned everybody and turned them into addicts. I mean, It's an addiction. It's not like, it hits that dopamine pathway in your brain, and you can't you can't come. I mean, it's like a drug. I mean, even things like dairy, which is supposed to be so healthy for you. I mean, I've had people have DTs coming off of dairy. I'm like, come on.
Isn't that amazing?
It's like, oh yeah, because it's casomorphine. It hits morphine-like substances in your body, in your brain. Can you imagine? Anyway, Crystal. So how was it experiencing writing a whole book with your husband, who is a very strong, I would say that's I'm being modest, strong personality. How did you guys work together? You're strong in your own right, but he's a giant, right? So how was that working together on this book?
It's so funny because it's such a great question, because we've never done it, and so we didn't know how it was going to go. and generally we get along so well, and we we wake up every day with sort of the same attitude that we want to make every day as amazing as it can be. So that's helpful that we have that with each other. But I think we both have our strengths, and we kind of just took the baton and ran with it in our own ways. I did a lot of the, sort of coaching type of writing. Mark was really good at setting up these great interviews, doing a lot of interviews. I'm probably the final editor on everything because I'm a really perfectionist kind of writer. And we just both, wrote like crazy and kind of did our pieces and then blended it together. We decided, obviously on the organizational structure of it, the things, the main points that were important, and flushed all that out in the beginning, and then just started filling in the pieces where we felt, each of us respectively were the strongest in those areas.
Wow.
So it worked amazingly well. I'm just
good for you.
Honestly,
that's
I'm
amazing. I mean, it's amazing. So I'm looking forward to seeing more. Please.
Well, let me talk to that, because I just told Crystal one of the crazy things we did, and you know it because you were in the seminars. I would say at the seminar, I want you to read Chicken Soup for the Soul, but I also know that every one of you has a chicken soup story in you, and I need you to write it to me. And by doing that in all those seminars, and Jack and I are both doing about 250 a year, we were manic
killing
about doing them, and that's why we sold so many books. But we got 5,000 stories a day. So everyone out there's got an ask story. And what we've decided is that this is the first book in what's going to be a series of sequels and prequels, and ask for love, ask for riches, ask for everything. So this is the first time we've ever said it, but read our book first so you understand the zone we're in.
Right.
And then write your ask story and send it to reception@markvictorhansen.com. And we will thank you for it for sure. Whether we use it in a future thing is up to how the quality of what you did. Just like you're saying, the quality plus the quantity with a positive mental attitude equals unlimited results.
So what is your biggest ask? Is that your ask? I'm sure you guys have really big asks. So
yeah, I mean, I would say we're asking. Do you want to go first? Go ahead.
I'll go first. We want to have 1 billion people read Ask for the simple reason that if they read it and they go over it with one other partner, whether it's a spousal partner, a business partner, a colleague, or a student, or a mentor, or a mentee, we don't care what the position is. But if you go through every one of these questions, your life will transform. You'll get out of this cocoon and you'll go into the high-flying butterfly, because we're about to go into the most extraordinary times in history. And when you go to my website, you'll get free a book called How to Be Up and Down Times. And I'll teach, we're going to do 50 trillion from 2020 to 2030. And most people are going to miss it because they're not reading it. They're not thinking about it. They're not seeing opportunity is going to abound. And back in the Depression, 1898, what did we come up with? We came up with the automobile with Henry Ford. We came up with electricity with Edison. We came up with flying with the Wright brothers. And we came up with the telephone with Marconi, and then the same thing in 29 to 39. But right now, we're going to come out of this, and it's going into the most extraordinary time ever.
I'm so excited. You guys, I could talk to you forever, and I'd love to have you back on the show because I got more. But I have to wrap it up. We're out of time. And so where do we find the book?
So just go to Amazon.com, ask The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. It looks like this. Yep, there you go. It's on audiobooks. You get the hard book. And it's only $16. I would say, if you know someone who's hurting right now, and this is my ask, please buy an extra one for them. I mean, there are a lot of people right now who maybe feel like they can't even spend the money on a book, even though it's $16, or the Kindle version, what is it, $10. But, let's support each other, because we all need to, as we say in the book, you matter, and the world needs you to be your best and reach your destiny. So please get the book and please stay in touch with us. I'm at Crystal Dwyer Hansen all over social media. Of course, this big guy is at Mark Victor Hansen all over social media.
We're gonna be posting those links on the
Yeah.
on the download on our website, autoimmunepodcast.com. And I wanted to thank you one more time. It was such a pleasure having you, and I was so excited to have you. So
You were too, and we're excited that we'll come back on in the future if you should have us.
I love you guys, both of you. You're so beautiful together. So yeah, thank you. Over now. So this show was made possible by the eCenter Wellness, a nationally recognized wellness clinic. Learn more at ecenterwellness.com, and please check our past episodes on autoimmunepodcast.com and check out our socials, Instagram, Facebook, and if you like this kind of content, follow, like, and share. Thank you again for joining us. This is Jocelyne Eberstein signing off from UBN Go Studios here in Burbank, which you guys didn't want to drive to. Until next time, be well and do good in the world. Thank you. It was lovely having you.
Thank you.
This is great. Can we